Election Day. That means both campaigns are going to be laser focused on the results in Florida. The whole world, of course, knows that. And Randy Kay is live in Orlando for us this afternoon, a few hours away from polls closing. Florida was, of course, the closest state in 2012. It has been a dead heat between Clinton and Trump there. There have been, 25 polls taken in recent months. So you're there today. What are you seeing in terms of turnout, in terms of who's showing up at the polls, how long the lines are?
It sounds like it's going to be pretty close, I can tell you that, Aaron. We know that Hillary Clinton was here 13 times since the Democratic Convention. Donald Trump has been here 12 times. And a lot of folks want their voices heard. In fact, they want them heard so early that they've all early voted. 60% of this precinct where we are in Orange County has early voted, which may explain why there's not much of a line here behind me. But we did pull a couple of voters who just came to vote. Trish and Brian are joining me. And you've been sort of coming to this decision. You've decided to vote Donald Trump. Why?
I have. I just didn't want Clinton in there. I think it should be the end of the Clinton era.
It's not important to you to have a first woman president?
No, not with Clinton, it's not.
Okay, and Brian, who are you voting for and why?
Yeah, I voted for Jill Stein, and I like her very much on environmental issues and what her domestic policy is.
And you, I know, work at a golf club, and you said you haven't heard anyone there talk about Hillary Clinton in a positive light, but you've heard a lot of good talk about Donald Trump there.
Yes, I do work at a golf course where there's a lot of retired military, and they're all wanting Donald Trump. Yeah.
And do you have friends who are voting Hillary Clinton? Are there any of your women friends who that's important to?
There are a couple, but the majority of my friends are Trump voters. Mm-hmm. But I do have a couple women friends.
What are the issues important to you that you went with Trump?
I just think we need a change. I just think we need a change, just going in a different direction.
And if you wake up tomorrow morning and Hillary Clinton's president, one word, how will you both feel?
I'm glad it'll be over.
More than one word, but we'll let that go. One word.
Oh, well.
Well, 2 words. They can't count here. All right, guys. I appreciate it. I know you voted for Marco Rubio as a Republican as well. Certainly, that is a big Senate race that a lot of folks are following here. He's getting a lot of support from the Latino vote, the Hispanic vote, which is up 89%, Aaron, since it was last looked at in 2012. So that's certainly good for Marco Rubio. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Randy. And of course, that's going to be fascinating if you see a lot of people voting for Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio. To the point we were making earlier, what does that mean for down the line? That certainly would be far from a Democratic sweep. It would be a greater shift than that. My panel's back with me, along with Trump supporters Ferdinand Hughes and Paris Denard. Let me start with you, though, Angela Rye. You heard that woman, and she voted for Marco Rubio. She also voted for Donald Trump. And she said she didn't want the first woman president to be Hillary Clinton. It sounded to me like she actually was pretty pragmatic. She was saying, if Hillary Clinton wins tomorrow, she's fine with it. But she wanted change. In a word, she wanted change.
Yeah, I think that there have been a lot of voters throughout the primary that talked about that. There have been things that have been said about it's time for dynasties and no more Bushes. They didn't want Clintons either. But I think that I would push back on what she wants in terms of change. I think she said we want a different direction. I would argue that that's not a positive direction for the country to go in. I don't think there's going to be much surprises here. I think there will be a lot of instances where people split their ticket, meaning they support Hillary Clinton as their presidential candidate and may also support Marco Rubio. Unfortunately, for the Democrats, frankly, I don't think that Patrick Murphy was a strong senatorial candidate. Yeah. There are many other states that I think are still in play for us to gain back control of this.
And when you talk about the Senate, this is a crucial issue, okay? Yeah. Charlie Cook from the National Journal was coming out saying he thought Democrats could pick up 4 or 5 seats. Obviously, that would be Democratic-controlled Senate. Is that the likelihood as you see it tonight?
More the likelihood than not. I mean, if you look at Illinois, you look at New Hampshire, you look at Wisconsin, and you look at Pennsylvania, it seems like those are strong possibilities. And it looks like that Nevada seat with Cortez Masto, it looks like that's a safe seat. It's Harry Reid. Hard to see that Harry Reid's going to give up that seat to a Republican. Yeah. So it looks more than likely. But I do think, one of the narratives, and we'll have to see if this is true, is that the FBI's initial announcement, the vague letter that Comey sent out, seemed to maybe hurt those down ballot races a lot, and you saw the Republicans being much more bullish on their chances.
Can I just add really quickly to that? I also would not sleep on Missouri. Jason Kander is the Democratic Secretary of State there, and even though Missouri tends to be red, they have launched a hell of a campaign against red one.
Parrish, you don't think this is how it's going to go, and when you look at someone voting for Hillary Clinton at the top and Marco Rubio at the bottom, well then that does open the door to the Senate going different than the White House if she wins.
Look, I think I've never bought into this idea of this down ballot issue is going to be as strong as it is with respect to people believing that Mr. Trump is going to weigh down. Look, Illinois, for instance, that senator was always going to vote the way he does because of the district, because of the state that he represents. And so what I believe is there are going to be a lot of people who look at this election and vote on change. And they're going to vote for Mr. Trump, and then they're going to say, you know what? Speaker Ryan is voting for Mr. Trump. Mitch McConnell's voting for Mr. Trump. And if I wanted to have the change that I need in Washington with these leaders, I need to have Mr. Trump have support. And they're going to vote down ballot.
So how crucial is the Senate race here, though, David, when within the balance of power? If you're watching this in this country around the world, you're going to look at the House, right? Isn't going to change, most likely. So you're looking at the Senate.
The House has a veto power, and the Senate, in order to get things done, you do often need 60 votes, as we all know.
So on a practical basis,
on a practical basis, having 51 or 52 is not that meaningful, but you do get the investigatory power, which is extraordinarily important. Look at what Jason Chavez is threatening over in the House.
Right.
So and there are other aspects of power that are really important. It helps on every vote that's going to come up about the Supreme Court to get that one or two extra. And this also may be the best window. If Hillary wins, this may be the best window for getting things done, because in 2018 there's a good chance the Senate will go back to the Republican side.
You've been through this. How significant would it be if she wins for her to have it by a tiny margin versus not having it?
It's critically important. Under President Obama, we had it both ways. We had a Democratic Senate for 6 years, Republican Senate for 2 years. Where it's going to make the most difference for her in the outset is on appointments. Right? Her ability to get her cabinet, the deputy secretaries and undersecretaries confirmed.
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court. There's going to be a huge difference, especially if the Democrats last had the Senate. They changed the rules to allow a 50 vote on cabinet and non-Supreme Court judges. My suspicion is if they take the Senate back, they'll do that again. So she will be able to get her cabinet appointed. So it makes a huge difference. I think Democrats, it's close, but most likely.
It's a sure thing, though. I mean, it's incredibly close, and you look at the establishment candidates, Ayotte and Rubio and Portman and Grassley and even McCain in Arizona, they have been outpolling Donald Trump. And I think that the most fascinating thing to watch tonight in those races is what that tells us about the strength of the Republican brand. And, whether it was a good idea, in fact, to distance yourself from Donald Trump, and also what the long-term potential damage is that he does on the brand, or do people just see these as two distinct things? I mean, in Arizona, for example, we're not expecting that Hillary Clinton's going to pull that off at all, but you've got Sheriff Joe on the ballot there, and a lot of Latinos turning out, and I think it'll just be a fascinating window into 2020.
Obamacare premiums at 116% increase in Arizona. So the big question is, did everyone misread the American people or the Republican base and the voters, and misread how they feel about Mr. Trump as opposed to how they feel about...
And the races that are the most contentious for the senators are the ones that actually came out against Trump a long time ago. Now you see with Kelly Ayotte, yes, she started, but she was in a tough race there for a while. Now she's able to sleep a little, but she started kind of going along with the crew.
That's not news.
She's kept her mouth quiet. She's not publicly come out and criticized her. She's publicly criticized. I think we're going to be 50-50.
She said she didn't want her daughter to
That was weeks ago. And
No, it was like days ago.
But she still said she voted for Donald Trump. You saw it come together in the end. That's what
I'm going to pause later. Just to be clear, she said she wouldn't let her daughter in a room with Donald Trump.
Right, but
Or with Bill Clinton. Okay, I'm just accurately quoted. Just for accuracy. Okay, next, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's Election Day superstitions, and we're going to take you live to Clinton and Trump headquarters, just about 3 hours away from the first polls closing.
Says it won't last for a while. The Cadillac XT5. What should we do? Tailored to you.
Wait it out.
Equipped with Apple CarPlay compatibility. Now during season's best, get this low mileage lease on this Cadillac XT5 from around $429 per month, or purchase with 0% APR financing.
The votes are in, and Griggs is a winner with critics. It's one of the top 10 new fall shows.
Deal with it, America.
A razor-sharp new political satire.
they're giving you the Reagan Award.
They gave that word to Dan Quinn.
Nolte is wonderful.
I don't know how many people died because my political machine
dirt and stains than you could ever imagine. The reason it looks so good is because we pre-soak and wash with OxyClean. It would have saved $1,000 every year or more because they're holding up and lasting longer. We're proud of our school colors. We just wanted to say thanks for 5 years of making us look and feel like champions.
OxyClean, it gets the tough stains out.
Billy, what if you don't go?
I have to, Cap. I need a commitment. It's going down. What?
What you did that day no longer belongs to you. It's America's story now.
What really happened over there?
I did what I had to do. Billy Lynn's long halftime walk. Rated R. Election Night in America. Don't miss a moment. Watch on air on CNN or online with live streaming at CNN.com or your CNN app. Election Night in America. CNN.
Hey, I'm Ty Pennington, and I've got a simple question for you. Are you paying too much for your mortgage? Well, you won't know for sure until you check with Guaranteed Rate. You can do it right now. It's that easy. With Guaranteed Rate's digital mortgage, you can choose from today's lowest rate, check your free credit scores, and even get approved online. Anytime, anywhere. All in just minutes, at no cost to you. Lowering your mortgage payment could save you thousands of dollars. Just take a few minutes right now to see how much you could save.
We were going to rent. That was the going-in plan, but the rate was so low in Guaranteed Rate that we ended up buying.
Whether you're buying a new home or refinancing your current home, get a low rate from Guaranteed Rate. Visit rate.com right now to find out how much you could save. Call 1-888-557-1555 or visit rate.com.
Be ready for all the election results anywhere. Download the CNN app now.
And welcome back to CNN's special Election Day coverage, just hours away from the first polls closing and what begins the agonizing wait for results for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Just hours ago, Donald Trump revealing he is superstitious and hoping that history will repeat itself this evening. Here he is.
I'm a little bit superstitious. So when you said please call, I said I'll call. But I won many primaries speaking to you first thing in the morning, so I'm going to keep that string going.
All right, two men who know all about these extremely tense hours, the former senior advisor to Mitt Romney, Kevin Madden, the former senior advisor to President Obama, Dan Pfeiffer. The superstition, you heard Donald Trump there. Hillary Clinton also has her own superstitions. We just play her. She has something very specific she does too. It doesn't call me to Fox News, though.
I've worn the same bracelet, the same necklace. I am not talking to anybody about what they're hearing in terms of, early votes and all the rest of it, because I am superstitious.
Same bracelet, same necklace. I mean, Mitt Romney, did he have something he did?
No, superstitions I think are good. I think you get more superstitions as you do more campaigns.
Why do I buy that Mitt Romney be the one guy who wasn't superstitious?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. It's different from a superstition. He had a routine. Like, he liked to vote early, then he liked to go spend some time with his family. I remember when I worked on campaigns first coming up, this is before the digital era, back in the analog era, I used to go to the movies. Disappear for like 3 hours because the anxiety and
you can't do anything. You just sit around. You don't want to watch this stuff.
Everything up until that point, the work is done. Right now, you're just waiting for the returns to come in. So just kind of unplugging for 3 or 4 hours because when the returns do come in, there's going to be a lot of anxiety. There's going to be a lot of anticipation, and it'll drive you crazy. But I think a lot of campaigns, particularly when you work on many of them, you have a routine, and I expect that President Obama probably did the same in all those campaigns that he worked on.
Well, he had a routine.
He did. President Obama on election days. He started this in the primary in 2008. Continued it through both the 2000 general election, 2012, and then today as he plays basketball on election day. He is a very cool guy, but he's superstitious. And election day is very hard for candidates because they have had not a moment to themselves for years now. And then all of a sudden, there's almost nothing you can do. Maybe
you go read a book.
Maybe what happens is you sit around, you hear some anecdotal stuff that means nothing, and In
Yeah.
some cases, what we would do with President Obama is he would do television interviews into battleground markets and do phone calls to radio stations to try to turn out the voting places. But that takes up like 2 hours of your day. The rest of it's just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, maybe spend all the time with your family, but, a lot of pacing.
Imagine driving in the Daytona 500 and then getting stuck in traffic. You go through a breakneck pace for anywhere between a year and a half to 2 years, and all of a sudden on one day it becomes 24 hours of reflection and waiting. And that, I think, is probably the hardest part about election.
And how do you deal with winning and losing? In the case of Mitt Romney losing, right? He famously had a victory speech prepared and not a lost speech. I remember that night I was in Ohio and I was getting emails from people who were close to Romney saying, we've got Ohio.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's not how it went, right? And he lost. How do you deal with that?
So I think one of the myths of 2012 campaign was that the Romney campaign expected to win on election day.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think when you go through the type of campaign that you go through, and it's very hard, and you have an investment of time and energy and emotion, you believe that you have a chance to win on election day. And what's really most important for the candidate is the message that you send with your behavior that day and your attitude that day. The campaign volunteers all across the country and the staff, they feed off of that. So you have to have a sense of optimism all the way until the polls come in victory. And that was why Governor Romney only prepared an acceptance speech, not a concession speech, because who wants to go out and knock on doors for a guy that's already written a concession speech before the polls are closed? So.
And you don't know what it's like to lose.
Well, no, I've worked on losing campaigns.
We beat him in 2004.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody.
We were winning campaigns and losing campaigns, and it is just so hard. You're in shock afterwards because the candidate and all of the staff and volunteers have given their entire life, for sometimes up to 2 years, and it goes one way or the other, right? Either you are going to win and go work in the White House and and serve your country, or you're going to be unemployed the next day. And so it takes a long. It's very hard. It takes a long time to get over it. And you got to be sympathetic, no matter which party it is, for the people who are going through that today.
More reasons we might want to consider a parliamentary system. I find it strange 51% of the people get to decide 100% of the outcome. But you know what? I know that is way beyond the scope of today's conversation. Anyway, Trump and Clinton holding their election night parties just a mile and a half apart. They're both going to be in the middle of New York City. Tonight, we're going to take you there live. And a surge in Latino voting since 2012. You've heard some of the stunning statistics. Will it make the difference in Florida? We're live there next.
America's Choice 2016 is brought to you by the well-equipped 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander.
Mind making a run?
I got it.
The 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, with available all-wheel control and a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, starting at $19,795.
Hey! Almost home.
It's ready for any adventure you can imagine. Get up to $3,000 cash back on select models during the Mitsubishi Motors Holiday Sales Event.
You need a website. Run and do it yourself. Wix Artificial Design Intelligence learns what you need and creates a stunning website with you, complete with images, videos, and text, tailor-made for you. Go to Wix.com today.
You boarded the Avalon with a destination. 120-year hibernation means you'll wake up in a new century, on a new planet, but in a blink of an eye. Everything changed. Do you know what's going on?
You woke up 90 years too soon.
There's something they can tell us.
There's a reason we woke up early. Rated PG-13.
See me. See me.
Don't stare at me.
See me. See me.
See me to know this psoriasis is just something that I have and not contagious. See me to know that I won't stop until I find what works.
Discover Cosentix, a different kind of medicine for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, proven to help the majority of people find clear or almost clear skin. 8 out of 10 people saw 75% skin clearance in 3 months, while the majority saw 90% clearance. Do not use if you are allergic to Cosentix. Before starting, you should be tested tested for tuberculosis. It increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight that may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you have received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
See me.
See me.
See me on my way.
Find clear skin and a clearer path forward. For a different kind of medicine, ask your dermatologist about Cosentix.
Looking good is more important than looking where you go. How are you going to do that today?
Is there an event on?
Grand touring.
That's to release it, you muppet!
You've only had one minor fire.
Go with me now!
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Welcome to our viewers across the United States, around the world. I'm Erin Burnett. It is Election Day in America. The first of polls close. Let me just tell you what we're looking at here. Indiana and Kentucky, just 3 hours from now. We are live at polling places across this nation. We're going to be bringing you updates throughout the hour. You can see the lines, Americans turning out to do what is our great privilege, which is vote. In some areas, turnout described as heavy and robust. In Wisconsin and Milwaukee County, an election official there calls turnout there pretty strong. Obviously not enough to read into their record or not. In terms of early voting regularities, which is something many people were talking about, here's what we know so far. In North Carolina, Durham County officials tell CNN they've requested voting be extended by 90 minutes because there was a glitch in their electronic voter check-in system. They had to go to paper. It took longer. They need 90 more minutes. We're going to have more on that story later in the hour as we go through any irregularities across the country. Whatever the outcome, though, the winner of this election will make history. You'll either have the first woman president or Donald Trump will break many records himself. First Washington outsider who has never held elected office to be the president if he wins. Our reporters are fanned out across the nation, and we begin with Jeff Zeleny at the Clinton headquarters in New York City. Jeff, as you said, in the room where you are, there's a glass ceiling. As you've pointed out, something that if she wins tonight will surely play a very large role in her comments.
No doubt about that, Erin. She is, of course, preparing that speech, but I'm told that she's also preparing another speech. Very common for presidential candidates to have speeches on both sides, but I can tell you they are confident in spending much more time on a winning speech. But they do not think that this election is won yet by any means. And Erin, I can tell you at this moment, just talking to aides within the last hour, this is where her team is looking right now. They believe that Florida looks pretty good for them. They feel confident about Florida. They are keeping their eye closely on Michigan and North Carolina. They do believe that those two states will be among the closest of all. Michigan's so interesting, Erin. As you know, it's been a Democratic in the last 6 presidential campaigns, but suddenly at the end of this race became ground zero. Donald Trump held a rally there in Grand Rapids shortly before midnight last night, and she was in Grand Rapids earlier in the day. So Michigan will be a place to keep an eye on tonight. The Clinton War Room is focusing on Michigan right now, but they also believe that they have so many paths to 270. So when she comes here to the Javits Center on the west side of Manhattan, her supporters already actually are standing in line here. When I was coming in, there were at least 100 or more supporters lined up down a couple blocks away. So this place will be filled with people, but the most important work now is still going on out in those battleground states. They are still trying to get out the vote. Confident, but I would say not arrogant at this point, is how I would describe their mood inside the war rooms here at the Javits Center. Erin.
Jeff, thank you. And now let's go to Jim Acosta. He's also in New York. That is where Trump election headquarters are. And Jim, we were just talking about Trump and, what do you do in these final hours when there really is nothing to do? You've done any last phone interviews you're going to do? You are sitting around. What is he doing right now?
Well, Erin, he did do some interviews earlier today on some radio stations, and it might be a preview of coming attractions. He was indicating in those radio interviews that if they smell trouble, or what they perceive to be election trouble, this may not end tonight in the view of the Trump campaign and in the view of Donald Trump. So that is something that we obviously have to keep our eye on. keeping in mind what he said at that last presidential debate in Las Vegas, where he said, well, I'll keep you in suspense and let you know if I will concede if I lose this election. So that is something that I think the whole nation will be watching. Aaron, I can tell you that Donald Trump, as we've been showing our viewers all day, he did vote earlier this morning. He did get some boos as he walked into that polling place. And there was that shot which elicited a lot of interesting hot takes on social media of Donald Trump looking at his wife Melania as she was voting. But not much else. He's got a private party this afternoon with staffers and close friends and so forth. And then tonight he'll be at the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan to watch these results come in, and then we'll hear from him later on this evening. Jeff mentioned the state of Michigan. I agree. Maybe this truck driver also agrees the state of Michigan is very much in play at this point. They focused a lot of energy, time, and attention at the very end of this race. Donald Trump, as Jeff said, was there at midnight rallying supporters. Internally, they feel like that Michigan is one of their strongest states that they may potentially flip later on tonight. And then if that happens, hold on to your hats. Because if Donald Trump can win Florida, this is the theory inside the Trump campaign, if he can win North Carolina, if he can win Ohio, and then pick off Michigan, this night becomes a lot more interesting and a lot more, suspenseful than I think a lot of people were suspecting. But Aaron, one last thing I do want to point out is that in the state of Nevada, Trump campaign officials have filed a legal challenge. They are upset over some election officials who allowed some early voting to go past their closing time. So people who were standing in line were allowed to go past the closing time, and so they're filing a legal challenge on that. That's not that unusual, but what's interesting about that, Aaron, is that the Trump campaign is very worried about the Latino vote in Nevada. They are concerned that that may swing a state that they desperately need into Hillary Clinton's column tonight. Aaron.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, it really is all about the road to 270, as you hear both sides mapping it out moment by moment here, obsessively in these final moments, final couple hours till the polls start closing. David Chalian is at the magic wall. And David, what are the core states that you are looking at, especially as you take into account what we've seen today, early senses of turnout, for example, in some of these crucial battlegrounds?
Well, Aaron, let's listen to what both Jim and Jeff just told you about the map. Remember, here's our sort of battleground map, 5 remaining battleground states. Hillary Clinton only 2 away from 270 electoral votes. Let's say the Clinton campaign is feeling fantastic about Nevada. Let's give her that for a moment. You heard Jeff Zeleny say they're feeling really good about Florida. I just want to show you how important that Michigan area is that Jim was just talking about. Let's give Donald Trump Arizona. Let's give him North Carolina. And let's give him the remaining battleground up here in New Hampshire. If Hillary Clinton wins Florida and Nevada, those battleground states, she's at 303. He is still a good 36 electoral votes away. He would need not only Michigan at that point, he would need Pennsylvania. That would get him to 270. So just digging into Michigan may not be enough if Hillary Clinton is putting some of those battleground states on the board. So that's what I do think you should look very closely tonight at Florida. That's Virginia there, hang on. Florida, North Carolina, and Michigan. I think those states are going to tell the story tonight, Aaron.
All right, thank you very much. And what counties, before you go, what counties? I mean, obviously we talk about states, but there are counties perhaps in even other states that might really give you a sense. Are there any for you that stand out, David?
I'm looking at 3 counties, Aaron, and this is the 2012 map here, okay? This is the Obama-Romney race. Let's start early in the evening in Virginia, and I'm going to go to Fairfax County. It's a county that Barack Obama won by 21 points, so obviously it's not a battleground county, but it is one of those suburban counties that used to be Republican, that Democrats have been digging into, those close-in suburbs. Margins matter. This is where we're going to see if Donald Trump is starting to overperform Mitt Romney or John McCain in a significant way. If this gap shrinks, start looking at the suburbs in other key states as well. Another county I'm going to take a look at is in the battleground state of Florida, out the Tampa area here in Hillsborough County. Again, Barack Obama won it by 7 points. He has been trending Democratic of late. This is a place to look early on. The polls close here at 8 o'clock Eastern in the state of Florida. Look early on at Hillsborough County around Tampa, the key district, and look to see if Donald Trump is overperforming Mitt Romney or is Hillary Clinton extending the Democratic edge there. And then finally, Aaron, in the state of Indiana, this one is more for fun than anything else, Vigo County. It's only gotten it wrong twice since 1888. You see how close it was here in 2012, 49-49. Seems to be a bellwether county. They pick winners. Look at the results in Vigo County, Indiana, near Terre Haute.
All right, thank you. And joining me now, Mark Preston, the executive editor for politics here, Maeve Reston, political reporter Manu Raju, our senior political reporter, David Gergen, senior political analyst, Bakari Sellers, Hillary Clinton supporter, Scotty Nell Hughes, supporting Donald Trump, Maria Cardona, supporting Hillary Clinton, and Paris Denard, supporting Donald Trump. Okay, interesting, David, we're talking about counties, and you just heard David talk about Fairfax County in Virginia. Prince William, Virginia, another one John King had raised. It is these crucial suburbs that have been trending Democratic. And in the case of Prince William, he's saying, not because of your college-educated white suburban voters, because of, in that case, a quickly growing Latino segment of that suburb.
Well, I think at the end of the day, looking at Prince William and looking at what's going on in Florida, looking into a lot of the big story, the sleeper story of the day, may be the Latino vote. You know, I don't think anybody foresaw that we've had the outpouring of Latinos in the early voting that we've seen.
I did.
Maria's been pushing on this thing for a long time,
yes.
But very few foresaw anything like the numbers who voted in Florida in the early voting.
Right.
And if Latinos drive Florida into her camp, into Hillary camp, I mean, that's going to be so crucial. They're very important in Nevada. They're important in Colorado. They're important in Arizona. But listen, I just think it's going to change our politics if the Latino vote, you know, it's always been lower than the black vote, other groups. If it comes up like this, I think one of the things it's going to do is it's going to put real pressure on the Congress to finally pass an immigration bill. The Republicans will have to pass an immigration bill if they have any hope of becoming the majority.
Is it a one-time wonder, though, Maria?
I don't think
turning out because they dislike Donald Trump, as opposed to this is a real seismic shift in this country.
and let me tell you why. First of all, it is the one demographic that is growing gangbusters. 800,000 Latinos, Aaron, turn 18 every year. And that is going to be the case for the next, 10, 20, 50 years, for the foreseeable future. And so these are trends that Republicans really aren't, they're not changing their politics to match that, which is why they're going to be in big trouble if they don't go back and do exactly what David said. Latino Decisions, which is one of the premier pollsters who actually know how to poll Latinos, did an election eve poll last night. And what they demonstrated is something that to me demonstrates just how the immigration issue and the rhetoric that Donald Trump and the Republicans have been using against Latinos is really focused on their mobilization. The immigration issue came out on top of jobs and the economy for the first time in a very long time in terms of the number one issue that Latinos are going to the polls to register their concern and intensity value.
But I think it's not just, and it's not just in some of these swing states. I mean, that's just going to be so fascinating. Even in California, you have seen huge, massive increases in Latino registration, which could affect other races all the way down to, like, the mayor's race of LA, and I think that there is, I do think that there is kind of a one-time effect here in some ways with Donald Trump, because so many of the voters that we've been talking to in battleground states, Latino voters around the country, are so angry at what he has said over and over again, and they just could not wait to get out there and vote against him, and we're making sure that members of their family were registered. So there is a clear effect that in terms of him galvanizing the Latino vote this year.
We're talking in broad sweeps about the how important they are, but let me just give you some raw numbers of where we stand right now based upon early vote. Now, only a few states actually have to require to give you the ethnicity of early vote. So in Florida alone, we are looking at 428,000 more Latinos voted early in 2016 than they did in 2008. That is significant. And by the way, that's not just the Cuban vote we talk about, Miami. That is the Puerto Rican vote, in the middle of the state that cuts across Dominican and what have you. In Colorado, where we do not actually have ethnicity data, I'll just throw out these numbers right now. The Republican Party has a 7,000 early vote advantage over Democrats, right? If you go back to 2012, their advantage was about 30,000. Now, pause. If you look at Colorado right now, 20% of the population right now in Colorado is Hispanic. They tend to be Democratic voters. You have to link those two together and say that the Democrats were effectively able to get out the Hispanic vote. And if you look up in North Carolina, where we've seen a decrease in the African-American vote by 33,000 people, right? For whatever reasons, you've seen an increase by about 30,000 new Hispanics voting. So we're seeing a void being filled. Absolutely.
You also have other counties here, totally different demographic, but crucial for Donald Trump. He says he's got to win Pennsylvania. To do so, he's got to do really well in places like Bucks County. Okay, blue collar, a Philadelphia suburb. Can he do it there? Is that going to be an early county that you're going to be watching those results? See what kinds of margins he could run up there, because that would then be a bellwether for, let's say, Michigan.
Absolutely. And listen, I think the point that you made, Maria, about the immigration taking the lead at jobs and the economy for the first time, I think is an important one. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to translate to the rest of the country, especially in places like Pennsylvania, where jobs and the economy are going to play a role. So Mr. Trump can do very well in counties like that. I think that's going to be a direct translator to states like Pennsylvania, obviously, but Michigan, Nevada, where jobs and the economy are number one on the minds of the American people. So we can't let anything off the board as it relates to this election, because it's so critical. And the major thing is, we keep coming up with all these scenarios and these theories, but at the end of the day, toss everything out. Because I think there's a lot of African Americans, you talk about the black and brown, there's a lot of them are voting for Mr. Trump, but they're not saying it. So I think that we want to be careful how we look at these polling data and how these external things, because there are a lot of people who are going to vote for Mr. Trump that look just like me and look just like Bakari. They have Bakari's registration, but they're voting for Donald Trump.
I don't know about that.
I mean, that's hopeful. I mean, but
it's a hopeful election.
I know, but the fact of the matter is, a little bit to Paris's point, in places tonight that we have to watch, you have to look at Philadelphia, you have to look at Detroit, you have to look at Columbus and Cleveland, where you have these large bastions of African American voters. If you want to look at a particular county, I think Broward County in Florida is going to be very important, and the reason being is because Hillary Clinton's plan tonight, and it has been in Florida for a long period of time, is to run up the vote before you get to that 8 o'clock moment where the panhandle comes in. Along the panhandle, Mitt Romney beat Barack Obama by 150,000 votes. It wasn't enough. If Hillary Clinton's able to run up a margin of between 300,000 and 400,000 votes in places like Broward County and others, going into the panhandle, then you can even give him 250,000.
He won't be able to make it up.
He won't be able to make it up.
And Aaron, not just the Hispanic vote so critical. What about the college-educated white vote?
Yeah.
That's going to be absolutely critical in determining whether or not Republicans can win, not just keep control of Congress, Donald Trump winning, but there are some polls in recent days suggesting that Hillary Clinton is doing better with the group that has traditionally voted Republican. So Clinton does well with this group, particularly in the suburbs of Philadelphia and in areas of Florida. That could be hugely problematic for the Republicans.
Well, if she does well with all of
especially with this
you're talking about that, you're looking
that's it. I'm going, the reason why we're talking about Michigan and Pennsylvania is because, yes, the Republicans might not have addressed the Hispanic community. The Democrats have forgotten about basically the working class, and that's why Pennsylvania and Michigan are all of a sudden in play. Pennsylvania, it's actually Allegheny County, is that we need to be looking at Western Pennsylvania, urban and suburban mix. Trump might not win it, but we want to make sure that the turnout low, which is what it's looking at right now. That will show right there, and that's going to be a direct reflection of what's going on in Michigan right now, where you had the 4th largest Obamacare insurance premium. Hence why Michigan became play for the Donald Trump campaign.
All right, all stay with me. And next, Donald Trump has said the system is rigged. He's given some pretty specific examples of things he says are happening at polling places. So we're going to go to the ground, check the facts, what's happening at this moment across the country. And then Trump's daughter-in-law opening up about the impact the race has had on her family. She will be my guest right here coming up.
It's a beautiful movie about a guy who has to come back to the town where he's from in order to take care of his nephew.
Well, I can't be his guardian.
Patrick's a 15-year-old boy. He's got a whole life in Manchester.
You actually have sex with these girls?
Strictly basement business. The problem is, Leah's got to face the greatest tragedy of his life.
My heart was broken. I didn't realize it's broken too.
It feels like real life, and I think the movie's incredible.
Manchester by the Sea, rated R. I'm really into this car, but how do I know if I'm getting a good deal? I tell TrueCar my zip and which car I want, and TrueCar shows the range of prices people in my area actually paid for the same car, so I know if I'm getting a great price. This is how car buying was always meant to be. This is TrueCar.
Do
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need or can't afford? Now you can sell your policy for an immediate payment.
We bought life insurance when our kids were young, to protect their future.
Our youngest just turned 40. We no longer needed the coverage.
That got us to thinking about letting our policy go. So I did some research and called Coventry Direct. I learned that you can sell all or part of a life insurance policy, even a term life policy. Turns out, people have been selling policies like ours for the past 15 years. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we have money to help with the medical bills.
And to add to our retirement.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may be a candidate to sell your policy.
Call 1-800-382-9600 or visit CoventryDirect.com for a free information pack. 1-800-382-9600.
Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
Election night in America. Don't miss a moment. Watch on air on CNN or online with live streaming at CNN.com or your CNN app. Election night in America. CNN.
Taking the bus with groceries and my kids. I have a car, but it's either feed them or pay for insurance. Day one.
Need car insurance? Get covered for as little as $20 down with Good to Go Auto Insurance. That's right, as little as $20 gets you started. Then you pay as you go in easy monthly installments. Sound good? Call or go online and get a free rate quote in under a minute. There's no obligation. If you like our price, get proof of insurance on the spot. It's fast, easy, and cheap. Because you buy just what you need to get legal and on the road again. Why wait? Call or visit goodtogo.com now. Get Good to Go Auto Insurance and get where you're going on your own.
Call 1-800-828-9988 or visit goodtogo.com for a quick rate quote now. That's 1-800-828-9988. There's no obligation. 1-800-828-9988.
Be ready for all the election results anywhere. Download the CNN app now.
Breaking news just moments ago, a Nevada judge ruling against the Trump campaign in a dispute over early voting. Lawyers went to court today for the campaign. They claimed that polling places in large minority areas were kept open, in their words, 2 hours beyond the designated closing time. Jim Sciutto is out front. And Jim, what was the campaign looking for? And obviously the judge making a definitive answer here. What was the reasoning?
Well, this looked like the campaign laying the groundwork for possible legal challenges after the election. What they said is that these polling stations were kept open because the lines were so long. Now that follows state law. If you're already in line when polling stations close, at many states in the union, they keep those stations open to give you a chance to cast your ballot here. But this state judge took this case from the Trump campaign, dismissed it very quickly. Have a listen to how she answered some of the questions.
I'm going to deny this as a writ of prohibition or mandamus. I think there's been a failure to exhaust administrative remedies because the Secretary of State is the one who would tell us if, in fact, she needs this information for her inquiry.
That's interesting. The Trump campaign there was also trying to get the names of poll workers made public, and the judge denied that as well, saying, why would I unleash Twitter trolls on those people eventually? So really the Trump campaign, at least in this case, losing all their challenges there, knocked down by that Nevada state judge.
And Jim, just a short time ago, Donald Trump was interviewed on Fox News. He was asked whether the election will be over or not after tonight, and he answered that question in part with this concern.
There are reports that when people vote for Republicans, the entire ticket switches over to Democrats. You've seen that. It's happening at various places today. It's been reported. In other words, the machines, you put down a Republican and it registers as a Democrat, and they've had a lot of complaints about that today. Have to be careful. We have to see what it is.
Jim, as you've been covering all the irregularities, any of them today, have you seen any evidence of that?
Short answer, Aaron, is no. We've got a big team here at CNN watching from districts around the country. And for the kind of fraud that Donald Trump's talking about there, machines that suddenly switch your vote to a different party, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing other cases of fraud that he's alleged before. For instance, dead people voting, or people voting 2 times, or people voting under names other than their own name. What we are seeing are other things, sort of equipment failure cases. In North Carolina, old electronic equipment didn't work there, so they had to revert to paper rolls to check the IDs of voters as they come in there. In Van Nuys, California, there was one district where the polls opened before they had their voting machines in there. And there was another case in Broward County, Florida, where 2 of the clerks were actually fired because they were arguing over elderly voters who were coming in with their health aides. One of the clerks apparently arguing that those health aides are telling the elderly people how to vote. But really, those kinds of things, very isolated, distributed around the country, no evidence of the kind of fraud that Donald Trump was alleging there.
All right, Jim Sciutto, thank you very much. My panel's back with me, along with Kevin Madden. Mark Preston, let me just start with you. Really, with all the focus on this today, right, and Trump telling people to go to their polling stations and watch for any irregularities, thus far, we have not seen just these very few sporadic reports.
Yeah, and things that, if in fact they did happen, are not going to change the election. If you're going to do voting fraud, right, you're not going to do it on a piecemeal basis, one voter at a time. I mean, that's not going to flip an election. You're going to try to get into the systems, and you're going to try to turn a lot of votes, or you're going to try to have some kind of system where you're actually going to steal massive quantities of votes. And we're not seeing that. We haven't seen that. Donald Trump was irresponsible to go out there and say that several weeks ago. And look, our voting system is done by the people, they're done by volunteers, they're done by local officials, and the fact of the matter is there are going to be some errors, and we just have to live with that.
Right, well, I mean, because one of the things we have heard, we talked about North Carolina, in one location, they have to keep the polls open 90 minutes later, because you have actual people checking people in as opposed to the electronic voting machine. So, if anything, our system is so sclerotic and human-based that it would be impossible for large-scale
And it's
voting
state by
fraud.
state. Each state has its own rules, and so, it's hard to say there's some sort of massive conspiracy happening right now. But, I mean, I think what we've heard from Donald Trump for several weeks is laying the groundwork for something to blame in case things do not turn out the way that he anticipates tonight. What you're not hearing a lot is from other Republican officials, people within his party, echoing those same concerns that this process is rigged, that there are problems, widespread problems in the electoral process. But what we're seeing is what are common, some irregularities here and there, nothing on a widespread basis that Trump was warning.
And Kevin, as we pointed out, in a lot of these battleground states, you're talking about Republican secretaries of state who are responsible for overseeing this, the very people that if anything, Trump would think he could rely on, and they have, at this point, seen no evidence of anything.
Right, I think what people have to remember, too, is that ballot integrity programs by both campaigns are pretty routine in elections, particularly national elections. And, I think legal actions are also pretty routine, but they're based on, individual events that happen here or there where they feel like the integrity of the process needs to be upheld. But I think why there's a hypersensitivity to it in this space continuum that we're in right now is because of the pre-election rhetoric that we heard from Donald Trump that questioned the integrity of not each state, but the system itself. And that's why I think so many of these secretaries of state, who are Republicans and Democrats, have been so vigilant in assuring the public that they have maintained the integrity of the system.
Which is why it should be a great relief to everyone, regardless of who you want to win, that there have been almost no reports of any issues today.
It's a great relief, but if you're a Clinton supporter like myself and probably Maria, definitely Maria and a few others, if you want to bring the country together after tonight's race, then one of the things that Hillary Clinton has to do, and I don't mean to heap on any more expectations, is she has to win this race, and she has to win this race going away. That is the only way you can put away any of Donald Trump's concerns.
By a large margin.
They are a figment of his imagination.
I do appreciate it way, though. Well, here's the thing about this. I don't think the Trump campaign went into this thinking they were going to win. Judge Gloria Steinem stormed into this case when they filed it. I think it was
in Nevada. You're talking
in Nevada because it was in Clark County, very much a Democrat county. It's not one that I think they thought they were going to win. It was more, I think, putting them on guard from down on the road. You look at you're right. It's not one of those cases. But I think it was putting on guard, saying yes, we are watching. We are going to challenge this as a case.
Challenge everyone you can. If you challenge everyone, you have a challenge.
Like I said, there's nothing wrong. They have the right.
Just to be clear, I mean, if that is the logic behind the campaign, then that just shows you that there is some irresponsibility going on, especially with legal teams. Because the fact of the matter is that in this country, if you are in line, and that's something that every viewer needs to understand, if you are in line when the polls close, then you have every single right to vote. So if the polls have to stay open until 10,
which is what they said happened there in Clark County.
That is not acceptable.
But you know what else it underscores?
Quickly.
Who were the majority of the voters in Clark County that were in that line? They were Hispanics. So for the Trump campaign to do this now is yet another indication of how much they have wanted to just, disrespect the Hispanic community. Another slap in the face. It could have been anybody in there.
We're going to speak to Julian Castro about these issues in just a moment, but as we've said, people are in line, and you should know that. If you're in line, you get to vote. Whatever the time, if you're already in line before the close, just hours from now when the first polls do officially close, Pennsylvania's going to be one of the first states to watch. That's where Miguel Marquez is. He has been there throughout the day at a voting center, and Miguel, obviously, Pennsylvania has not gone Republican since 1988. Donald Trump, though, thinks he can change that. He really needs to change that for his path to 270.
He absolutely needs to change this. If he wins Pennsylvania, it opens up so many doors for him to get to 270. This place will be music to his ears. This is Washington County, a county that Romney won, has more registered Democrats than Republicans, but Romney won it. I want to show you the line. It's been heavy all day long, and in the true techno geek way, we actually have a drone that can show you just how long this line is. This is what we're seeing right in front of the door. It has been about an hour long for most people to get through here. But this, as you watch that drone rise over and we walk toward the end of the line, it's about an hour to the end of this block here, but now it's starting to stake around into the parking lot here. That's probably about an hour and a half, hour 45. Officials here are able to get through about 150 voters every hour. They have about only 6 or 7 provisional ballots that have been filled out. That's people who come to the polls here and their names aren't on the registry, or there's some problem or some issue with their registration. Those ballots will then be given to the courts later and they'll be counted later. But so far, very, very heavy turnout in Washington County. Aaron?
All right, Miguel, thank you very much. And joining me now, Julian Castro, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, a Hillary Clinton supporter. Secretary Castro, thank you very much for taking the time. Look, we've been talking about the crucial nature of the Hispanic vote, perhaps the most important group of vote. In swing states where there is early voting, you've seen a surge in Hispanic turnout. Florida, 89% increase from 2008. That's more than 400,000 people. Georgia, North Carolina also seeing, relative to the population, a significant increase. Do you believe that it will be the Hispanic vote that determines who wins the White House tonight?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I just want to note that I'm here in my personal capacity, not my official one. The Hispanic vote, I believe, is going to be a major reason that Hillary Clinton wins tonight. Donald Trump started his campaign off in June of 2015 by insulting immigrants, particularly Mexican immigrants. He was very denigrating toward Judge Curiel, said that he couldn't do his job because his parents were Mexican, he was of Mexican descent. And for decades, folks have talked about the Hispanic community and their voting potential as the sleeping giant. What Donald Trump has done is that he has awoken that sleeping giant, and when 7 o'clock comes around and the polls close in Florida and they release that early vote, he's going to start to see the power of that sleeping giant.
Yeah. Now, do you believe, though, because you're talking about this relative to Donald Trump, right, which is obviously a crucial part of it, but are these voters turning out to vote against Donald Trump? Because that's one thing, and that might help Hillary Clinton win, but it's a very different thing than voting for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I also think that it is a credit to her that she's had a long-standing relationship with the Latino community. In fact, she started her political work out in the George McGovern campaign in the early 1970s, registering Latino voters in South Texas. She's talked about immigration reform, getting that proposed within the first 100 days of her administration. She's talked about the issues that matter to the Latino community, like improving health care, improving education. So this is both respect and appreciation for Hillary Clinton, and of course, a recognition that Donald Trump is the most anti-Latino candidate to come along in quite a while.
So one thing, though, then, that perplexes me, and this is just the data, the most recent data that we have. We'll see what happens tonight. But USA Today poll from late October showed 18% of Hispanic voters were undecided. To the point that you made, this is more than a year after Trump called most Mexicans rapists and pounded the table daily about building the wall. Yet 18% are undecided. Is that a warning sign to you? You would think with stuff like that and the way that you're speaking, it would be 99%, but people were already decided. 18% undecided.
Yeah, as you know, it's hard to get 99% of anything in politics. Let me say this, and others have said it before, that pollsters have not had the best track record in polling the Latino community, and because of that, what you've seen is some polls that have been outliers, but that don't show as strong of support, or as the one that you cited, they show Latinos that are up in the air. I think what you're going to find when the results come out tonight is that Hillary Clinton's going to do better than the 71% that President Obama got 4 years ago with the Latino community, and that's going to make all the difference in places like Florida and Nevada and in other battleground states.
All right, Secretary Castro, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We'll see what happens tonight. And next, Donald and Melania Trump voting today. What is he doing in this picture? Is he checking out her vote? And Lara Trump on how her father-in-law is doing today, what he's doing this afternoon as he waits. She's my guest, and she's next.
Dear Mr. Dow, my wife and I are now participating in your mutual fund. We invested in your fund to help us pay for a college education for our son. We've enclosed a picture of our son so that you can get a sense there are real people out here trusting you with their hard-earned money.
At Fidelity, we don't just manage money, we manage people's money.
The successful millionaire power review.
Millionaire, not millionaire.
What the hell happened at the close-up of the cockpit?
From Academy Award-winning director Warren Beatty.
Hi, I'm Frank. If anybody working for me wants to strike up a relationship with one of our actresses, I have to fire her.
Warren Beatty, Lily Collins, Alden Ehrenreich, Annette Bening, Matthew Broderick, and Alec Baldwin. Did you know my dad just thinks sex is bad? Because of my need to dancing. Rules don't apply. Rated PG-13. In theaters November 23rd.
I'm so proud that I serve my country. I can't imagine not having One Warrior Project in my life. We need One Warrior Project to help us in our ongoing recovery. My family learned that they weren't in this by themselves. One Warrior Project definitely saves lives. I am living proof that this organization